Hi there, Lord Jeg here. Um, Something I wanted to talk about today was kind of an idea that I've been kicking around for the past couple of years. Actually, a lot longer than that, but it really kind of just before, just after the election of Obama, really got me thinking about this. And and when I hear the Democrats crying and whining about Trump, you know, it kind of goes to this too. And basically, what I want to do is I want to draft. Now that sounds kind of unusual, may sound kind of odd, but if you think about it, let's just take a little trip back in time. Now, the founding fathers weren't stupid. We all know that. If you've ever read the Federalist Papers or the Anti-Federalist Papers, or even though some of the letters that they sent to each other, Jefferson's letters to friends and etc. If you go into those details, I mean, these guys were well read. I mean, Renaissance men, literally Renaissance men, and so they were well read, they were well versed, they were polymaths, and generally they weren't stupid guys, but they had a big blind spot, and that was, and I guess it's kind of inevitable if you think about it, that they had this idea that when they formed this country, that everybody who would serve in the public service, that it was a noble calling, and that they would look out for the country's best interests and not their own. And you can see that's a load of crap. I mean, now what do we have? Congress with anywhere from 8 to 20% approval rating. You have the president. No president in the current time has had, more than about 47% around time of re-election. So, it's like the old joke. Every congressman is horrible except mine because he brings home the bacon. Well, that's what my thinking is that if we institute the draft, there won't be any more of this bringing home the bacon stuff. Because again, the founding fathers had a big blind spot. They couldn't see that. They couldn't see, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't care. I can't believe that they were that naive. So maybe they were greedy assholes too, and they just figured, it couldn't get too bad because the situation would kind of become self-righting. And maybe that's true. A Frenchman named Alexis de Tocqueville, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but I don't speak French, so sue me. He wrote a bunch of books, but one of the most popular, one that most people know, is called Democracy in America. And there's a particular paragraph in there where he's talking about how basically the politicians are held accountable by the people. And that's kind of a rare thing, where he's talking about how, in the European countries, it isn't quite that way. It's more like the rich kind of do their thing, and, the poor really, unless they have revolution or whatever, they don't quite have that so much. So, but this paragraph has always kind of stood out. It says, "In the United States, then, that numerous and turbulent multitude does not exist who, regarding the law as their natural enemy, look upon it with fear and distrust. It is impossible, on the contrary, not to perceive that all classes display the utmost reliance upon the legislation of their country and are attached to it by a kind of parental affection." See, at one time we had that. Now, how we got away from it, you can blame the bankers or the Jews or, modernity, or maybe it's, an inevitability when you have free will or whatever. So, again, it's time to do something radical. It's time to bring back the press gang, bring back the draft, except that make it for politicians. So, you take the tax-paying, land-owning, native citizenry, put the names into a computer, randomize it, draw them out, and if your name gets picked, congratulations, you're now a congressman or a senator or whatever. Don't want to serve? Okay, that's cool. Go to jail. Or maybe we'll take your property and put you in jail. I don't know. Maybe we can work those details out later. And what this does is that this would eliminate partisanship, because your ideology would become mostly irrelevant, right? I mean, you've been selected at random, and the next dude has been selected at random. So, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to start colluding to start planning mischief and mayhem. Okay. Another thing is that after you've been drafted, you get to serve one term. So again, 2 years for your congressman, 6 years for your senator. Instead of a president being elected, what they could do, what I think would probably be the best thing, is you could either do the random thing and draft a dude for president, or you could have them, the Congress and the Senate get together and try to appoint one of their guys for president. And then you wouldn't have a big long election cycle. You wouldn't have all this money spent for this position. So again, kind of a win-win as far as I'm concerned. The other nice thing about this serving, being picked at random and serving one term, is that they don't get a chance to screw things up too much. And anything that does happen, well, at the end of your term, you get turned back in general population. So if you've messed things up, congratulations, you get to live with what you messed up. And again, we treat it like a draft. They get a stipend, they get room and board. They can put them on an army base. Give them a poor fitting leisure suit. Like the old blue Air Force uniform, and chow at reveille at 5, and chow at 6, and 12 and 5, and lights out at 10 or whatever. Again, don't treat them special. In fact, treat them a little less than special. And then that way, and if you do get some guys that are colluding and doing mayhem and mischief or whatever, well, again, they'll have to live with the problem. But if you had enough people, I don't really think that it could get too partisan. I think the randomizing would keep things pretty balanced out. But if not, you'd still have a Supreme Court. You could still have a tribunal or something like that, and or you could even have, if enough people in a district or whatever, they could have a recall, or they could have a civil trial, or even a criminal trial. So anyway, this is just one of those things that have been kind of bubbling in the back of my head for years, and every time I mention it, people kind of look at me funny. So again, I don't know if this is one of those ideas that it's just so absurd and so stupid that it is worthy of no consideration whatsoever, or if it's just one of those things where maybe it's a little crazy, or maybe it's just so obvious that nobody's thought of it before. I don't know. So if somebody out there, assuming that I'm not just talking to myself. Hello, is this thing on? But yeah, I mean, if I'm not just talking to myself, maybe we can have some discussion about that. So, anyway, that's all I got for now. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening to me rant and rave. Let me know what you think. If you're on Social Galactic, I'm at Lord JEG. Otherwise, drop a comment in the comments section, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for checking in.